Should managers focus on the return to work or on recovery? Do you remember the story of the three little pigs? The one where they each build a house to protect themselves from the fox? One builds his house from straw, one from sticks, and one from bricks. The fox comes along and says, little pig, let me in." To which the pigs reply, "Not by the hair on my chinny chin chin." I'm sure you can remember this. The fox then tells them that I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow your house down, before proceeding to blow down the straw house, then the stick house, only to be foiled by the pig who's chosen to build his house out of bricks. Now, I think there's a parallel in this story with the different approaches to getting absent employees back into work. The approach that focused solely on getting a bum on a seat as quickly as possible, it's a bit like building a house out of straw or sticks. It's simple, quick to construct, it looks like a house, but doesn't really have a solid foundation to help it to weather the turbulent times or to stay up long term. But taking a recovery-based approach is a bit like building a house out of bricks. Yes, it takes longer, it's more complex, but it has a solid foundation to keep it standing when the winds blow over the years to come. Now, both approaches have their own merits. Let's explore some of the pros of each. So, pros of a return focus. First one is time. Focusing solely on getting somebody back into work is definitely the faster approach. It's single-minded and it doesn't get weighed down by the complexities of taking a more holistic approach. There's just one thing to focus on, therefore less time needs to be dedicated by managers. So it's quite an attractive approach. So when it comes to having managers not having much time, this option makes a lot of sense on the surface. Next up, simplicity. Focusing on just one thing means that managers don't need to liaise with others to support them with other variables that might be hindering the return to work. They also get to avoid having to coordinate the skills and support possibly needed, such as mental health first aiders, GPs, family members, etc. So again, on this count, it's a winner in terms of simplicity. Next, it's easily measured. It's an easy success to claim. A return focus does what it says on the tin. It focuses energy on the person being back in work, and therefore, as soon as the employee's back, it's job done. That box can be ticked and success can be claimed. Temporarily at least. So let's look at the pros of a recovery focus. First of all, it's holistic. Focus on recovery means we take into account the possible range of biopsychosocial factors, and by that I mean the biological factors, the psychological and sociological factors that influence the road to recovery when it's down to mental health. By considering biological, psychological and socio-environmental factors, we increase the likelihood that we'll improve the areas of the person that contribute to the absence in the first place, and therefore we lessen the chance of a relapse. So it's a win on that note. Next up, relationship building. By taking the time to understand the person and their situation as unique, we build trust as a byproduct. By taking interest in them as a person and not just a number. Let's not forget, people like to feel valued and understood. Next up, it facilitates growth. Recovering requires individuals to learn new coping strategies and resources to help them get to where they want to be. These skills may then be applied in the future or in other non-related situations, but therefore making the individual more resilient and rounded. And finally, future-proofing. In the same way that often a broken limb ends up being stronger than before, if correctly rehabilitated, supporting an individual to focus on and work on their vulnerabilities means they get a focus they didn't previously receive in that area, thereby becoming better able to cope the next time round. So which approach will you take with absent employees? Will you the return focus or the recovery focus? Will you build your house out of bricks or out of sticks? And in fact, maybe it doesn't have to be an either or choice. Perhaps in some situations, a house made of straw, the return focus is justified as it's all that's needed. Just a quick nudge to get the person back into the workplace maybe. Whereas in other situations, the bricks and solid foundation of a recovery-based focus will be warranted as the employee needs to build that stable foundation through recovery in order to future-proof themselves. The key thing is to be aware that different situations require different thinking and that decisions have to be made based on the employee first rather than the business needs first. This is a tough thing to do sometimes, but solely focusing on the business needs first can result in straw houses being built, only to be blown down again and the person being absent again. Time saved through just focusing on return can be easily eroded when you consider that the process may have to be repeated multiple times if it keeps failing and the person relapses. So maybe we can draw another fairy tale parallel here. That's the story of the hare and the tortoise. One appears to be the obvious fast choice, but in reality, it doesn't play out that way. So remember, faster isn't always faster. If you'd like to get your copy of my free report, 3 Mental Health Myths Every HR Professional Needs to Know, just click on the link in the text below and I'll get your copy over right away.